So hello, my name is Abigail Piando. I am the community leader for cognitive classrooms, and outside of the position, I've been involved in education for some time now. I graduated college with a minor in education, and I'm certified to teach life sciences. Currently, I am teaching, but I'm teaching math in the Rio Grande Valley. I've been involved in education nonprofits for a while now. I'm going into my seventh year, and it's something that I feel very much invested in. And when offered the opportunity to be interviewed to share my thoughts on VR and AR in college and career decision making, I jumped at the opportunity because it's something that I'd love to share my input on. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'll start with sharing the questions and then just going off of my responses after that. So, first up, how can we ensure that students' career choices align with their personal values and interests? So this is something that every college counseling department still struggles with. I think that in the world we're in today, it's so difficult to make a decision on what we want to do because there are so many different departments and fields. Um, and it's okay to go to college undecided, and even if you go into college with a major, it's very often that you're going to change it regardless to something that you feel more impacted by. I can say though that even in college, when you're considering a career, that there is a high level of reflection and just understanding like what you see yourself doing in the future. I feel like at first, what kind of drives students when you're going into college is more of the technical aspects of the job. For example, money. Money is a big thing. We're also influenced heavily by our peers, what we see our family doing, just because it's what we're comfortable with. We know that if we go into that field, we know somebody who's already in it that could probably support us. And then I think it's also like I said, it's mostly something that you also see probably um, your friends doing. So you're probably thinking like, okay, I'm probably gonna go here because everybody else is. And I think the way that we can kind of frame our thinking moving forward when we're talking about career decision making is probably thinking more about reflecting on ourselves, our personalities, our interests, what makes us happy, and like a more deep dive into, I guess, the whole person rather than like outside, um, outside, what's it called? I forgot the word, but what's influencing us outside of ourselves, because at the end of the day you're the person that's going to the job, you're the person that's going to be going home and feeling fulfilled. So I feel like when thinking about careers, we should focus more on our passions rather than um outside influences. And I don't think we talk too much about that even in education today because the world is constantly changing. And I think even simple hobbies can become a career nowadays. So I think just helping students realize that the small things that make you happy can still be something you can kind of strive to do in the future. Um, but yeah, that's my take on it. I think that it definitely has to be more reflective and more personal. Um, and nowadays, even when I was in high school going to college, I think we didn't really sit down and talk about it too much. We didn't have that one-to-one like sessions where I talked about, oh, this is what I like to do, this is what I am like, and this is probably what I want to do. It was very much like look at the better jobs that pay more, but even though they pay more, you have to go to college longer, and that's more debt, more years that you're giving to this field. And sometimes, actually, a lot of times, you see it on Instagram where people end up leaving the industry because they don't feel valued or they don't feel like it's what they want to do anymore. And it's probably because in the first place, they didn't choose the job because it's what they wanted. It's probably something that they were influenced to do because of the society that they were growing up in. So yeah, that's the first question. I hope that helped. I kind of spiraled into a lot of different areas, but the second question I thought was really interesting. What's the role of the Sustainable Development Goals and social impact in career decision making among students? So I'm gonna be honest, where I'm from, in Texas, United States, it's not a big thing when we're talking about career decision making. Um, Even in my college development classes where we focused on preparing ourselves for university, we never really talked about it. And I think that just this question alone shows a definite shift in how students nowadays are kind of perceiving their impact on the world around them and how their career can kind of influence it. And I think that it's amazing. And it's something that we should talk about more because I feel like it's not only feeling worth about the job and task that you're doing, but also seeing how it impacts the world around you is an even greater kind of ambition and passion. So as of now, it's not a big thing, but it should be because I'm seeing as how our world is not doing that well in terms of a lot of different um, goals that the UN has set. I think that it also opens up a whole new realm of a career field where we purposefully try to accomplish them. So that's my response to the second one. Third, what is the most common challenge you observe among students when it comes to career decision making? Most common challenge. I think I mentioned it earlier, but I think we, as humans, it's normal, but we tend to stick to what's comfortable, like things that we know that either our parents will love seeing us do, or it's something that our friends are choosing. So we're obliged to kind of just follow along. And I think that it's normal. I don't judge anybody who has done this because I think at some point I have almost done the same, but I think that there almost has to be a push or drive to help people realize like you can do whatever you want to do. As long as it makes you happy and the others around you and you see it as putting goodness in the world, then it's okay. But I think that there also just needs to be a better way to show students the world around them rather than the small circle that they've kind of enveloped themselves in. Um, for example, um, my mother's a nurse. And for the longest, I thought that I wanted to do medicine because it's something that our family was heavily revolved around just healthcare and industry. So I thought that I was going to go to medical school, and a lot of my friends thought the same. So I enrolled in biology in my college years, only to realize first year that it was not what I wanted. And I think that it's because I thought that, it's what my parents wanted, it's what my community wanted, but it wasn't what I necessarily really saw myself feeling happy in at the end of everything. So most common challenge, I think, is just seeing ourselves in the developing world that we're in today because it's constantly growing and there's constantly so many new industries that you could join. And we shouldn't really have to stick to one thing that we know or feel comfortable in just because we feel like we have to. So, yes, that's my response to the third question. Fourth, how important is hands-on career exploration for students, and how can VR facilitate this? So I think that this is an awesome question because I, again, don't think that this is currently an invented thing yet, but it should be because I think that it would be so helpful for so many different school districts and just even homeschooled students who aren't really outside in the world and can really see this happening before them. Um, but yeah, I am a huge advocate for just hands-on anything, especially in the classroom when I'm teaching, because it's tactile, it's something that you can remember, and you literally see yourself doing the action, so you know whether or not it's something that you can remember, or in terms of career exploration, it's something that you see yourself doing in the future. Um, And I think it's significantly, like, it can make a significant impact on just how we move forward in our college years and just our career journeys. Because if we continue seeing ourselves doing these things and practicing these actions, we feel more confident in whether or not we want to keep on going or deciding to have the motivation to say, no, I don't think this is what I want to do. Um, but VR, again, I think is just so realistic, and there's so many different ways that you could really develop the system that it can be a huge asset to the field. So, yeah, this is a great idea, by the way, for the project. I don't know if I shared it, but um, yeah, it's a great idea. How can we make VR technology available to a wide range of students, including those who may not have access to VR headsets? So, in the previous question, I said that this would be really helpful for school districts in general, especially those that are struggling and don't really have the resources and guidance to kind of share resources like this. Um, and I think when talking about the United States, I know that it's different for every country, but you could partner with different districts and possibly get grants from different sponsors and big organizations and companies that really believe in the vision of education and how it can move forward in the future. You could definitely partner with them and possibly test run it within different districts. And from there, see how it's doing, see how you could develop further. And most likely, if you share the positive feedback and really good things that come out of the project, I am 100% sure that more districts will want to adopt it, and more grants and more sponsors will come forward and share that they want you to bring it to this specific school, this specific place. And I'm sure that if it works in the US, it'll be possible to spread it around the world. You can also even start talking to international companies and nonprofits that believe in this sort of message. Um, Even private schools are a great way to start, even though they do have more money. It's also a good way to kind of test run it because you are able to stick to a more close knit or tight knit community and get better feedback just by working with them. So there are different directions that you can go in terms of starting it and making it more accessible. And I think it all starts with just starting to prototype in one specific location and then just sharing what you've learned and seeing who's interested. So that's kind of my insight on how to get started. It helps to work small, improve, and then once you finally have like your finalized a model, you can then share it with the world. Um, but yeah, okay, so next question. What measures can be taken to ensure accessibility and inclusivity in the VR app for students with diverse backgrounds and abilities? So I think this is a super important question. Of course, at first, once you start creating your model or prototype, you kind of just have to build it off of the average student. And as much as I think that it's important to include accessibility and inclusivity, it'll be a lot just to include that within the starting point of your VR program. So I think you should start off based on the average, and then from there start including focus groups, including people of different backgrounds and different abilities, and see how your system works for them. There's nothing wrong with testing it with people who are included within that sort of audience and seeing what they kind of advise you to include or change or edit. Because I think that it's important to talk to people who you want to benefit from this and see whether or not it works for them. So I recommend a target focus audience once you have a working model, and then from there editing, making changes, and honestly just including them also within the whole process to see if it works. If you want it to be accessible from the starting point, you should include them already as a kind of way to get that feedback going. Last question. What support mechanisms can we provide to students who are undecided or facing difficulties in their career choices? So, I mean, I didn't start off undecided in college, and like I said, that it's something that people will choose regardless, and it's okay because like I said, our world is constantly changing and there are so many different directions we can go and different industries to choose from. And I think that if you want to include a way for them to kind of feel supported through that process as they're choosing, I think the way that your VR program can be helpful in that essence is also by just being helping them be accountable and responsible, and also giving them the resources and kind of experiences to see themselves within those different industries. Because I think the number one thing why people go in undecided is because either they already have decisions in mind and they just don't know where to go or what to choose, or they feel like the world is their oyster and they just want to experience everything possible before making such a big decision. So, knowing those two things, I think that you should probably give them a system or structure as to how to make that decision. Because, like I said, we're human. We understand like how the world works. We know that when we need to make decisions, we kind of have these different like roads in terms of like where to go. So I think just offering them guidance in that sense of what picking a decision can look like, or if you're working in nursing, like this is what you'll be doing and this is what it'll look like every day, that sort of thing. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful. And I hope that I was able to um, aid your project and help move it forward. Again, my name is Abigail Piando. I've been involved in education for a while, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to kind of delve deep into my mind of what education can look like, especially utilizing this type of project within the different fields in education. So thank you so much, and I hope that this was helpful, and feel free to message me if you have any more questions. So thank you.